Could MicroStrategy really be the FTX or Terra Luna that finally blows up this 2026 crypto market? While the Bitcoin price is currently clinging on to final support levels just under $60,000, everyone is now anticipating a nuclear meltdown for this crypto market. In this video, I'll break down exactly what you need to know about MicroStrategy and how dangerous it is for crypto, as well as what else is going on across the market so that you can prepare for the next 7 days ahead. Do me a favor, hit the like button and let's get in before it's too late. Now right now, diving into the Bitcoin chart, you can see that the Bitcoin price is clinging on to final support levels just under the February low at $60,000. And many traders across crypto are saying that if we're breaking through this support zone area here, that the next obvious move is to this level down below, which would bring the Bitcoin price to around $49,000. And that along with it would likely bring down a lot of altcoins. And a lot of the reason that many people out there are anticipating that this move is inevitable is all to do with MicroStrategy. You see, Michael Saylor has obviously been a big name across Bitcoin over the years. Many retail investors have thought of him as a bit of a hero for Bitcoin, but things have all changed, and now people are looking at him thinking that he's about to bring the Bitcoin and crypto market in general crashing down. So how likely is that to happen? Is this the thing that finally blows up in 2026? Because back in 2022 we saw things like the Terra Luna collapse and the collapse of the FTX exchange. Well, let's think about it for a minute. I guess the question is this really like FTX or Terra Luna? Should we be expecting this to be the final thing that crashes the market? Do we need something to crash the market in general? Well, let's think about what Master is compared to Terra Luna and FTX. Now, you see, both Luna and FTX didn't necessarily crash the market just because they were big. And by the way, if you look at this chart, you can see some of the impact that both of those crashes had, but they crashed the market because of just how interconnected they were with the entire ecosystem. Because Terra Luna had around $40 billion of investors' money that got completely vaporized within about 72 hours after the UST stablecoin depegged. And for anyone who doesn't understand what that means, effectively the stablecoin was supposed to be worth $1. People were holding lots of the stablecoin in order to be able to earn yields, and when that depegged, effectively it caused a bank run. Everyone panicked to take their money out. The stablecoin couldn't return back to 1 and then basically plummeted. And in fact, this was built into Terra Luna. Basically, as the price fell, it was designed that you would print more and more tokens in order to offset the problem, but that doesn't really work because it completely destroys the supply and demand model. And FTX was an exchange, the second biggest exchange just underneath Binance, that was using customers' funds and basically leveraging them across the market, investing into VC projects and all sorts of other tokens, which meant when the crypto market came down and everyone went to the exchange to try and take their money off, that money just wasn't there anymore. So when it went down, not only did FTX go down, but every single person who had money on FTX, every single major investor in the market also went from thinking that they had millions of dollars in the bank to suddenly having zero. And this caused major contagion to spread. Now, unlike FTX and unlike Luna, Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy isn't really wired to the crypto market in quite the same way, because nobody's customer deposits are actually inside MicroStrategy like they were in Luna and in FTX. Therefore, there's no exchange or other mechanism where billions of dollars of investor funds are being held. So despite the fact that the master stock is now trading well below where it was just a few months back, so no lending desk is going to implode even if the STRC trades at 85 instead of 100. Therefore, the thing itself can't actually spiral out of control and unravel like many people are anticipating it will. And this is really where I want to explain the difference between what MicroStrategy is and what many people out there think it is. You see, many people out there think that if the price of Bitcoin falls enough, that MicroStrategy will begin to unwind and it won't be able to stop itself falling apart. And this is effectively what happens with Ponzi schemes. And the reason it can't spiral is this. You see, MicroStrategy is a preferred stock sitting on $50 billion at current prices of actual Bitcoin. And that's against a $21 billion in obligations. So that effectively means there's a 2.3 times buffer. So simply put, for the equity to mathematically hit zero, Bitcoin would have to fall to $25,000. Now, if Bitcoin does start falling that low, then maybe we have to start panicking about what's been going on. And I'll talk about how likely it is to be pushing much lower in just a moment. So, I know many people out there are glued to the STRC charts and wondering if it continues to push down into the 80s, whether there's going to be any forced liquidation or major panic sell-off, but nothing really cascades. The only thing that will break if Bitcoin does push a little bit lower from here is Michael Saylor's ability to issue more STRC, which is inconvenient for him, but it's not a detonation. It's not going to cause the massive sell-off or the massive cascading loss that everyone's kind of starting to price in. So what's everyone so worried about? Well, they're simply worried that Microstrategy is going to be forced to start selling some Bitcoin at least in order to give himself runway to pay off investors over the next few years of dividends. And everyone is of the belief that if Michael Saylor starts to sell Bitcoin, it means that he's losing faith in Bitcoin, and then so will everybody else, causing more capitulation, more panic across the markets. I mean, just the other day, we saw him sell $2 to $3 million, and we saw the price of Bitcoin selling off quite considerably. But actually, right now, I think that a potential sell-off from MicroStrategy of Bitcoin could actually be more bullish for the market than not. Now, I know what you're thinking. How on earth could that possibly be bullish? Well, let's think about it for a moment. Why is the Bitcoin price, as I speak, currently at $60,000 when just a couple of months back it was up near $80,000? Well, partly for a few reasons. Obviously, we've seen what's been going on in the Middle East, but a lot of the fact we've seen a bit of weakness in and around here is probably down to the fear of what MicroStrategy might do. And the price of Bitcoin, as I speak, is pricing in a lot of things. It's pricing in the anticipation that Michael Saylor could well be about to offload Bitcoin. It's pricing in the fact that the Middle Eastern tensions are not fully over. It's pricing in the fact that the oil price has been overextended for months, causing strain on the global economies. In fact, it's pricing in every single worst case scenario possible, and that's why it's sat where it is. So by Michael Saylor actually selling Bitcoin and doing what everyone out there is anticipating him to do already and have basically already positioned themselves to do, it takes away the overhang of saying that he might do it in future, which means that the price is already anticipating him selling off, and it means that if he actually gets rid of that overhang, then the price can then start to appreciate once more. And there's a lot of signal out there that's showing us that everyone is anticipating the worst case scenarios playing out, very similar to what we've seen in every major bottom for crypto over the past few cycles. You see, while everyone's referring to calendars and a few charts and whatever else, really the patterns that are seen at the bottom of every major market cycle are pretty identical. And I don't just mean the bullish divergence that you're seeing on the chart right now, where you can see the price has basically put in a low against the previous low like it did back in 2022, but instead of the RSI or relative strength falling lower, it's actually going back up, showing that the strength of selling pressure is reducing with each and every dip towards the downside, which is why you move from these very steep sell-offs to slightly less steep sell-offs to then very slow grinds that eventually turn into an upwards move. And this is very similar to what we've seen happen from October, where you see a steep sell-off, slightly less steep, and now a much more gradual slide towards the right. You can see that this is basically showing you sellers are exhausted. There is less and less sellers in the market because they're finding more and more reasons not to buy. And believe it or not, that's actually a fairly bullish thing in my opinion. You see, this is the net realized profits versus losses from Check on Chain. You can see on the left, you have the first major warning shot after the initial top was in. That one typically causes a major sell-off, a major realization of losses where people who've been buying the top suddenly panic and start selling. You then get another one where the price drives them even lower. They can't continue to hold at these levels and eventually will capitulate. And then after lots and lots of time, maybe you get another sell-off that causes just the final capitulation. People can't handle holding through those markets any longer. And this is basically what we got just the other day, because this was the first warning shot all the way back in November. You then get that massive price pain push, which happened on February the 5th, and then right now the price pretty much sits at exactly that February level, meaning the market's gone sideways for 6 months, but the fear, panic, and everything has grown over time. This time pain has now created more and more panic and fear to enter into the market. The final panic selling has been happening here. And I know I keep talking about selling, and you're probably thinking, well, if everyone's selling, that must be bearish, right? You're kind of right. It is bearish, but ultimately, the more people that sell, that means that the less people are left to sell. And if no one's left to sell anymore, eventually you have buyers stepping into the market. And when those scales start to tip, effectively price moves back in the other direction, which is why charts and calendars and everything else are fairly irrelevant, because a lot of very similar patterns that lined up exactly here, that lined up exactly here and here are all showing in the on-chain data, and it's very similar to what we're looking at right now. Despite the news and narratives and panic going around. And this is further confirmed by this: the Bitcoin total supply in loss held by long-term holders. That means that the number of long-term holders holding Bitcoin in a loss is higher than it has been since 2022 FTX crash, which is 5.5 million Bitcoin currently being held by these long-term holders. Now, how can this possibly be bullish? Well, it means that these people are not selling. They're willing to just hold through the red, knowing that the market will eventually come back up, and they will continue to buy up coins. As the market eventually returns back to normal, they're then going to find themselves in profit. When everyone's in profit, that's when the market's actually at its most risky. Right now, when the market feels like it's the most risky, it's actually probably the least risky. It's much more risky when everybody is holding in massive profits, because that's when everyone's really likely to sell. And how do we know that everyone's anticipating things to get much worse? Well, ultimately spot sellers have been selling, but also you've got this. Look at the liquidation map on CoinGlass. You can see that right now the Bitcoin price sits at this red line, which is $60,000. Right now it's $60,100, meaning that above here, these are all people stacked into short positions, and these are people going long. Meaning that if the price of Bitcoin was to fall to $52,000, $425 million of leverage liquidations would take place, which sounds like a lot, but really that's a normal day in the crypto market. If you look towards the top side, however, if Bitcoin was to return to $74,000, still a long way from its top, then around $4.15 billion worth of shorts would be liquidated. That would add buying pressure to the market. I would say, if you're looking at this, the bigger risk to anyone right now is to go short rather than to go long, simply on the data that we're seeing. You can go down below, you can see this billions of dollars in Bitcoin exchanges on the liquidation map here. You see the total is around $13.2 billion. The downside risk, $56,000 would liquidate probably nearly $1 billion. There is potential for another flush under there. Not saying there isn't, but ultimately there's more risk here going short than there is going long. And who knows this? Well, we saw Bitcoin inflows to accumulation addresses hitting an all-time high. These are Bitcoin wallets that since the start of Bitcoin have never really sold any crypto at all. They've effectively just been buying and holding, and every time there's a new opportunity, they buy some more. Look at this spike towards the upside, showing that 160,000 Bitcoin was purchased in a day. Not $160,000 worth of Bitcoin, 160,000 Bitcoin. And there's also some other interesting signals that I found that not many people have been looking at. And the first of them is this, the USDT market cap. Now, this pretty much goes up pretty hard most of the time, but there is only a few months when it starts to track down, and that tends to be towards final capitulation flushes in crypto. So we saw one at the beginning of this year, back in 2026, before more accumulation. We then saw more downside move, but if you go back to 2022, you can see this pretty much went all the way up. Finally, it capitulated May 2022 until around September, comes back up. You have another little correction, and then it just goes in an upwards direction. Now, what I'm seeing here was those two corrections here, and these both led to a really oversold RSI that you can see here. First RSI reading there, second RSI reading here. Now we have two capitulation events, one back in February when Bitcoin went down to $60,000 for the first time. That is shown here in this capitulation event, and then you have the final one here. Final capitulation ending as we speak. This one here ended in December of 2022. From there, we moved up into an epic bull market for Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, not all altcoins, but we did have a pretty good run for a lot of coins. Getting in at 2022 lows was one of the best things that I managed to do. So what? Well, ultimately, as we look at the Bitcoin price, you can see that it is clinging on to this support level that it has been stuck at for quite some time. And if we were to look back through kind of support levels over time before we actually finally move higher, sometimes you do get a wick below that previous zone that effectively gets brought up and then you move higher. We saw that a couple of times, but not every single time. We saw it here, for example, we saw it here. So we can't rule out that it won't happen in order to just gather up liquidations that could be sitting in and around this zone before ultimately moving higher. But what I'm saying here is that this wouldn't trigger some major sell-off event from MicroStrategy that causes a massive capitulation event down to $40,000 or below. As I said, if Bitcoin gets to $25,000, then yeah, we probably got cause for panic. But I don't see Bitcoin hitting $25,000 until at least after the 2028 kind of market collapse. As I say, I believe that this is just a fairly brutal mid-cycle correction, and that this is part of a much bigger cycle that will lead us, because of liquidity, into kind of 2027, 2028 and beyond. From that, I think we might see a collapse of stock markets, AI bubble popping, and pretty much crypto getting absolutely wrecked, where you will see a far more painful, far more brutal bear market than Bitcoin has seen since October. But I don't really know whether we have to sweep under here or not. I do think that we could possibly also just return higher and eventually start moving up towards here into Q4 of this year, a move that no one really is anticipating. Therefore, I don't want to be sidelined, because I see the downside risk versus the upside potential just being completely in favor of the delusional bull right now. And one thing that's very interesting that's been happening over the course of the last few days is this. Ethereum has been bouncing in and around a zone that since early 2023 has basically acted as huge support. You can see last time Ethereum found itself down in here, it actually had a very strong rally back to previous all-time highs. Notably, Ethereum never broke beyond 2022 all-time highs with any such conviction, just a few dollars above, but that isn't really a breakout. What we're still waiting for Ethereum is to have its actual bull market. It hasn't really had a bull market since back in 2021, along with most of the altcoins. Therefore, an Ethereum versus Bitcoin run could be the signal that altcoins are about to go risk on. And what else is very interesting is that ETH versus BTC, which is Ethereum Bitcoin, right now sits at the exact point that it did last time here at the end of 2020, before that first kind of initial major leg up for Bitcoin and kind of altcoins in general that ran until around the 21st of May 2021. You then see the second leg of that kind of bull market that ran into late 2021 before that final kind of capitulation event. This is what I mean by the fact that altcoins and Ethereum have been in a bear market pretty much since 2021, whereas Bitcoin has obviously had a very good run over the years. Right now we sit at that key point, the exact same point as this. Okay, so a move like this would be something that will drag everyone back into crypto faster than you can imagine. And the others versus Bitcoin chart continues to run in this pretty much downward trend, but it's starting to make its way out of this downward trend. Now this is a weekly chart, so Ethereum versus Bitcoin is also a weekly chart. Whether it happens this week, whether it happens in a month, whether it happens in 2 months, doesn't really matter. Okay, we are clearly closer to the bottom than we are to the top. This is just a waiting game. For me, I've just been positioning myself into stronger altcoins. I made a video about this the other day, talking about which altcoins specifically I'm personally holding, so make sure you go and check that out. And if you're wanting to pick up any of the altcoins that I talked about in that video, then make sure you sign up to Bitunix, a link down below in the description. Right now, they have an Ethereum trading competition where you can win a share of $8,000. So if you're a trader and actively trading, then make sure you go and sign up for Bitunix so that you can trade, as well as that be able to buy all the different altcoins that I personally talk about, as well as anyone else across the crypto markets. So guys, do me a favor, make sure you go and do your own research. And as well, if you've made it this far through the video, make sure you leave a like and leave a comment down below. Helps me out more than you know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye-bye.